First off, from my respectful obeisances to His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, who opened the floodgates for Lord Caitanya's mercy to come to Laguna Beach, California, and all other areas around the world. And now for my obeisances to all the previous acharyas who kept the channel open. Sri Nityananda Prabhu is said to have cut a channel from the ocean of love of God that was dammed up, and he let it loose on the world. And to all the devotees all over the world today who are keeping that channel open so that people everywhere can take to the Kevala Anandakanda, the process of self-realization, which is simply joyful. Chanting, dancing, and? We'll try it again. Chanting, dancing, and? That's what got me when I first read the Back to Godhead magazine. I said, really? That's part of it? How could that be? I didn't want to admit it, but I was very attracted to that idea. Chanting, dancing, and? And to all the devotees present today, Vaiśeṣika kripa sindhavesha patitanam bhavanebhyo Vaiṣṇavebhyo namo namaha. I'll start with a song, which I'll go through slowly, and we can talk about Lord Caitanya Mahāprabhu and how he gave access to Krishna. Everyone say access. There's one word that I pray you take with you today. Only one word. That's all you have to remember to get 1600 on your SAT at the end of the day. And that word is access. What is the word? Access. Turn to somebody next to you and say access. Access. It comes from the Latin word ad plus cessere. Ad means to go, and cessere means forward, to move forward towards something. Cessere means to make an opening, and ad means to go. So it means to give people an opening so they can go through it. And in the case of Sri Caitanya Mahāprabhu, he opened the pathway for everybody to come into the process of devotional service. So the song starts with the words Jeev Jago. Has anybody ever heard that before? So Jeev means the life. And in the culture of Bhagavad Gita, we're concerned with consciousness, with life. It's as if we're separating the actual grain from the chaff. Because in this world, all that surrounds the soul is the chaff. In the Gita, Krishna talks about the material elements, the spiritual elements. And primarily, we're interested in the consciousness of the living entity. We start there. And we understand that consciousness and matter are categorically different. So Jeev Jago means wake up. And why would the soul have to wake up? Because soul can be in various levels of consciousness, as the Srimad Bhagavatam explains. We have awakened consciousness, which hopefully we are all in now. Look around and see. Does everyone look awake? I mean, you're aware that you're awake. Nobody has to give you a certificate, right? Do you know you're not dreaming? Say yes. Yes. And then there's sleeping with dreams. And we can be in a world of dreams where we're seeing people morph from one thing to the next. We're chasing something, we're late for something. We're active. In fact, Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, nāhi kaśyat shanamapi jatu tishyate karma karete hyavasat karma sarva prakriti jaruganai. The soul is always active. And never is there a time when the soul isn't active or isn't alive, or nor does he ever come into being, because he exists eternally. He's co-eternal with Krishna. Just as Krishna is eternal, the Supreme Consciousness, we're part of Krishna and have the same quality of consciousness, in the sense that we have cognition, although our cognition is not the same as Krishna's. He's known as Kavi. He knows everything. And he says in the Bhagavad Gita, Vedaham samatitani vartamanani charjana vabhishani chabhutani. You got to finish my sentences like we've known each other for a long time. Mam tu Veda nakashchana. What does that mean? It means I know everything. I know everybody. I know what's going on. And he knows us. Individually, he knows us. He knows every life we've been through. He knows every intention we have in our heart. And he's also known as Bhavagrahi Janardana. That means that he's aware of what our feelings are. And he's all accommodating towards our feelings. So, Jeev Jago means to wake up to Krishna. And remember that we have a very dear relationship with Krishna. Sanitya nitya sambandha prakritischa parayavasa. Brahma Samhita. We have an eternal friendship, an eternal loving relationship with Krishna. Just as he's eternal, we're also eternal. So Jeev Jago has great significance. It means somehow or other we've forgotten that intimate, beautiful, loving relationship with Krishna. And in the Srimad Bhagavatam, the Yogendras who meet Maharaj Nimi talk about the condition that one can fall into here in the material world. In one verse he describes the whole philosophy of Krishna consciousness. He says, Bhayam dutiya abhiniveshitasya ishad abhetasya vipariyosmiti tanmayato buddha avajetam bhaktyayikayesham gurudevata. And that verb in this verse is syat. That means it occurs, it arises, it becomes a fact. When we turn away from Krishna, ishad apetasya, vipariyosmiti, and we forget. Asmriti means we can't remember our relationship with Krishna anymore. Then fear arises in our life. And we become externally focused. We begin to think something's more important than my relationship with Krishna. Vayam dvitiya. And abhiniveshika means we become completely absorbed in it. Like as if a football game was everything to us. People live all year long just to see who will be on the top of the charts in the sports league. Or we become absorbed in our families, in our nations. Our minds turn on every piece of news we hear in the media about what's happening. Is the stock market up or is it down? Who's in charge now? From the point of view of Bhumi, the earth, think in terms of geological time. As she comments in the 11th canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam, she's been watching everybody since the earth was created. And she notes that people try to conquer a piece of land. And if they're successful, they have to do that by spilling tons of blood of others to name one piece of land, this is mine, and plant their flag. She said, that's not enough. Then they want the ocean. And they need the water around it too. And then the airspace. This is my air, this is my water, this is my land. But Krishna says, Vaiśeṣika sarvam yakincha jagat jagat tena tyaktena bunjita magrika kasisvata. It's not your water, it's not your land, it's not your air. Everything belongs to me. And you can have a plentiful quota to live your life in a healthy, natural way. But don't try to take more than that. And Bhumi says how absurd it is that they're here in geological time for 2-3 minutes. And the squalor and the fighting and the blood that's spilled on the earth is ludicrous.
makes you laugh to see how ignorant people are. This is a mini Vaiśeṣika. Tanmaya Buddha Abhijatam. Buddha means if somebody becomes intelligent, that they wake up, Jivago, awakening to the real interest in life. Abhijatam Bhaktyayakayesham Gurudevatātma. Says, give one pointed attention
to the practice of devotional service. And Bhaktyayakayesham, what kind of devotional service should you do? It's a hyphenated word, and I just said it. One pointed. This is Sutta Goswami's point in the Srimad Bhagavatam when he speaks to the sages of Naimisharanya. He says, Tasmad ekena manasa Bhagavan sakvatam viti shrotavya kirtitavyascha. I'm supposed to finish my sentences. Deya pujaschcha nityada. Means, tasmat, therefore, because you found yourself absorbed in something that's apparently not Krishna, and there is no possibility of something not being Krishna because Krishna is everything. And He's everywhere. He's with us at every moment. But if I forget that and I think something's separate from Him, then fear arises and I become dysfunctional. Therefore, tasmat, ekena manasa, put your mind in one place. That is on Krishna. And how should you do that? Deya pujaschcha nityada. Meditate on Him. Do puja. And when you're doing puja, you offer a lamp, right? Say yes. And when you offer the lamp, you can see the beauty of His lotus feet. You're pointing the light on the different parts of the transcendental body of the Lord. And you're seeing Bhagavan Krishna, the person. And then how do you feel then? The answer? You feel fine. Unlike when you look at a screen and look at random images, you don't feel fine. So, Deya pujaschcha nityada. And how often should you do this? How often are you given permission to meditate on Krishna? It's just 5 minutes a day, right? Is what the verse says. Does it say that? Pranahari? You know Sanskrit. The verse says 5 minutes a day only. The rest of the time we should engage in all other kinds of activities unrelated to Krishna, right? Wrong, Vaiśeṣika. It's tasmat ekena manasa bhagavan sattvatam pati shrotavya, hear about Him, kirtitavyas, sing about Him, cha, and etc. Deya pujaschcha nityada. It means nobody can stop you. If you decide, I'm going to think of Krishna, worship Krishna, this is my whole life, who can stop you? Nobody. They put Haridas Thakur in the jail, said, stop chanting. And he's like, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna. They beat him in every marketplace. And he said, stop chanting, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna. Nobody can stop you if you want to worship Krishna and sing Krishna's name. So, the solution, Buddha Abhijatam Bhaktyayakayesham, Guru Devatātma. And you should find a person to help guide you, Guru Devatātma, who you accept as your worshipable deity, Devatātma, in your very life and soul. And then you'll be lined up in the path of true devotional service. So, Jeev Jago, everyone say. So wake up to this fact that really you have nothing to do here in this material world that's ultimately important other than maintain yourself nicely. Eat good food, get enough rest, go for a walk up a hill if you have to, get a little exercise, but why? Kamasya nendriya pritir labo jivete yavata jivasya tattva jignasya narto yashcheha karmadhi. Means go ahead and stay healthy, but only for the purpose of jivago, of waking up and focusing your attention on Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Jiv jago, Gaura Chandra Lole. Kota Nidra Jao Maya Pishachita Kore. Which is question, how long will you stay here sleeping in the lap of Shema called Maya? Have you ever been sleeping and you knew you had to get up, but you just stayed sleeping? Nobody, just me. Like every day. And there's a way, there's a kind of torturous feeling, isn't there? PT can't trace it out. If you ask, try it. If anybody has the app, just ask right now, how long have I been in the material world? And you'll get a nondescript answer, like nobody can say, since time remote, you've been here forever. So Caitanya Mahaprabhu comes, and it is the sound of his voice that wakes us up. Then he says, Bulia rohile tumi avidyara bhare. That's, you called out while you were in the womb of your mother, and you said, I don't want to do this ever again. Tomare laitat ami hoinu avatar. He said, but now I've come, I've made my descent. And Ami Bhina, except for me, Ami Bhina, Bandhu Ora. Bandhu means friend. Ora means other. So who else? Ami Bhina Bandhu Ora. Who else is my friend except for you? Many people say they can help us, and maybe they're sincere, but they can't really do anything for us. But Krishna, He's our eternal friend. He's always been with us. He's always our well-wisher. He's there in the heart. No matter where we go, He stays with us. And when Lord Caitanya comes as an avatar, He's showing Himself to us as the Supreme Helper. Let me give you a hand, take you back home, back to Ghana. And then we have the process. N-A-G Ashaudi Maya Nashi Paralaki. Harinam Mahamantra Lao Tumi Magi. This is the instruction we've been waiting for, isn't it? Say yes. N-A-G Ashaudi. Ashaudi means Ashadi. Aushadi. Aushadi means medicine. Medicine comes from Latin med, which means to take appropriate measures. When you find yourself in a hole, stop digging and find your way out. So this is what the Bhagavatam is calling out to us, and Caitanya Mahaprabhu says, now you're in a precarious situation. So I've brought this medicine to revive your original consciousness, purify your heart so you can see me, so you can remember our relationship. N-A-G Ashaudi Maya Nashi Bharo. It destroys the illusion. Lagi Harinam Mahamantra Lao Tumi. Magi means to beg. We're helpless. We can't do anything on our own. I really like my hand, but if it decides not to serve anymore one day, I wake up and say, hand, come here, and the hand says, nuh-uh, I'm not doing anything anymore, I'm finished. Then how useful is the hand? And every limb in my body, every thought that I have, Krishna is supplying. He says in the Bhagavad Gita, Sarvasya chaham, Mataksmitir Gyanam, Vedaishcha Sarver, Vedanta Krid Veda. It's an astounding verse. Krishna is there. He'll inform us. The more we call out to Him sincerely and ask for help, the more He feels inclined towards showing us the path back to Him. In fact, He's only waiting for that. Gajendra, in his prayer, says, it's not that you're ever lazy about delivering me. You're always there waiting, not just when I pray, but always waiting. I'm waiting for you. And you're never alash, you're never lazy. So when we extend ourselves to Krishna through the process given by Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu, N-A-H-I Ashaudimaya, Nashi Bharala, Harinam Mahamantra, Lao Tulimaya. And Magi means to beg. And if you beg so hard, eventually you'll get. When we were recently in Vrindavan, one of our devotees was on a Govardhan parikrama, and a little boy came up to him and said, gimme, gimme. And the devotee had come across many such beggars, and he kept walking, but the little boy kept after him. 1 kilometer, 2 kilometers, 5 kilometers, still begging. And now it was a standoff. The devotee said, no, now you followed me so long, I won't give. And the little boy, even somebody else saw the scene and came over to give him something. He said, I won't take from you, I'll only take from him. And after they arrived at Radhakund, after 6 kilometers, the devotee thought, I'll give him something. He opened his wallet and he saw only big bills available. What could he do? He couldn't ask for change. So he handed over a huge bill and the little boy walked off. Mage. You got to beg and you got to go 5 miles, 6 miles. You got to be ready to go for a whole lifetime to pray hard. And how should you pray? 2 words. How should you pray? Pray hard. How should you pray?
Pray hard.
Yeah. This was the technique by Advaita Acharya. What was his technique? He sat down and he prayed. But how did he pray?
Pray hard.
He prayed so hard. He was calling out loud cries. Lord Caitanya said, I heard that. You woke me up. I was sleeping on the Milk Ocean. I came here. It was your cries. You brought me here. Krishna's always ready for us, but when he hears us cry out loudly, begging, please, please give me this. That's the main qualification, the only qualification we have. Janmaishvara Shuta Shibir Eda Mana Madakuma Naivarha Yavita Kumbai. Toma Kinchana Gocharam. Queen Kunti says, this is the only qualification. What is that only qualification? To have no qualification. I don't have anything. I'm the one who was left out. I'm the runt of the litter. No one ever, I've never received anything. I'm completely helpless. I don't have any good quality. No beauty, no fame, knowledge, nothing. It's all a ruse. The idea that I have something in this world. And if one can empty one's heart like that and pray to the Lord, please, please, give me your mercy. Then He'll pour in so much mercy that we'll be drowned by it. And that's one of the themes of Sri Caitanya Mahāprabhu. And the main word we're supposed to go away with today is, and it's one word, that's all you have to remember. And on your way home, you have to stop and get a tattoo of this word. And what is that? Access. Caitanya Mahāprabhu gave access because if you have the greatest philosophy in the world, but you don't have access to it, what use is it? It's just a theory. And people are sick and tired of theories. They want something they can enter into. Bhaktivinoda Thakur says that there are various qualifications for one to enter into the Gauranga, Gora Samaj, into the association of Lord Caitanya Mahāprabhu. One is that as the Gaudiya Vaishnavas, consider Krishna as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. How many people are there on the planet right now? Approximately. How many? 8 billion. 1 billion? 8 billion. There's 8 billion people in the world. How many out of those, if you wake them up at 2:30 in the morning, say, who's the Supreme Personality of Godhead? Will they turn over and say, Sri Caitanya Mahāprabhu? How many out of 8 billion? Prabhu, the brahmachari back there, how many out of 8 billion? Yes, I want the accurate number. 5,000 out of 8 billion will say Krishna is Lord Caitanya Mahāprabhu is the Supreme Personality of God. When you wake him up, now 2:30 is too late. 1:30 in the morning, you wake him up and say, who's the Supreme Personality of God? And only 5,000 out of 8 billion will turn over and say, Gauranga Mahaprabhu. That will be their response. The others will say, why are you waking me up at 1:30 in the morning? And then he says, there are others who consider that Caitanya Mahaprabhu was a great saint and that he worshipped Krishna and they revere him as a great saint, as the servant of the Lord like no other, perhaps. And then there are those who consider him a historical personality and they say, oh, yes, he did important work for the world. And Bhaktivinoda Thakur says, all of them get benefit. Just by thinking of Caitanya Mahaprabhu and considering him well, that, oh, this is a special person. He is, they might think, magnanimous. He did something for the world. Animus means the soul, and mag means great. So magnanimous, no, he's a great soul. So there's a way that Bhaktivinoda Thakur says, we have to, as those who are teaching Krishna consciousness to the world, and very particularly teaching about the access to the spiritual world through Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu, who's the one opening the door to everybody in the world, that all of these people have a quality that allows them to enter into the Gauranga Samaj, into the association of Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu, because when they come in with some open-heartedness and they associate with devotees who are worshipping Caitanya Mahaprabhu, then gradually they can get his mercy by his sublime process of chanting, dancing, and can you think of anybody who was closed-minded to the idea of Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu being the Supreme Personality of Godhead, but by association with devotees, he became a great devotee of Caitanya Mahaprabhu, seeing him as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Actually, he did see him as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. I hope I'm not giving it away. All right. Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya. When he saw the beautiful form of Lord Caitanya Mahaprabhu, who had fainted in the Jagannath Mandir out of ecstasy of seeing the beautiful lotus-like face of Lord Caitanya Mahaprabhu, he witnessed a scene where the temple commander came with a stick. What a shocking scene. The beautiful form of Lord Caitanya Mahaprabhu laying flat on the ground, and now somebody's come to beat him. And Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, out of an instinct, came over and said, no, stop, let's see this beautiful sannyasi. And he took him home, cared for him. Other devotees came and they chanted, and the Lord came back to external consciousness. And Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya said, I want to help you. What sort of sannyasi are you? He said, I'm in the Bharati line. He said, oh, it's too bad. I can give you a higher level of sannyas. Meanwhile, Gopinathacharya, his nephew, that was there, and he said, why are you saying these things? He's the Supreme Personality of Godhead. How insulting is that to try to say that you're going to help him? And an argument ensued where they came back and forth about the identity of this beautiful golden sannyasi who was there in the home of Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, who was the greatest learned scholar in the world. He had memorized whole books and knew everything about everything, except for he didn't know the main thing, which was Lord Chaitanya is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And Gopinathacharya said, he is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya said, prove it. It's not in the Shastra, because the Lord is known as Tri Yuga. He only comes in 3 yugas. Nobody comes in Kali Yuga. And Gopinathacharya said, see how little you know. Actually, he's mentioned in the Srimad Bhagavatam, because in the age of Kali Yuga, he comes as the Channa, or covered up. Itam Gagrishi Devata Shavatar Lokandi Papasi Hams Jagat Pratipan Dharmam Mahapurusha Pasu Gandavritam Channa Kalo Yarabhavas Driyugotasatam. He said the Lord comes in every species of life, and in every yuga, he comes to try to rectify the broken lives of the people in general. But in Kali Yuga, he doesn't exert himself or expose himself as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, but he shows himself as the devotee of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and by that, he teaches. Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya wasn't completely convinced, and he said, well, how do you know he's the Supreme Personality of Godhead anyway? And Sarvabhauma said, because I've received his mercy. And when you receive his mercy, you will also understand that he's the Supreme Personality of God. Atapite deva patambuja dvaya prasada leshan grihita eva. Janati tattvam bhagavan mahimno Nachanya eko kiksharam vijnana. When you receive even a tiny trace of mercy from Krishna, from the Supreme Personality of Godhead, then you can understand Him. Otherwise not. And as we know, Sarvabhauma proceeded with trying to uplift Caitanya Mahāprabhu by instructing him, and over 7 days, Mahaprabhu sat silently, beautiful golden sannyasi, and Sarvabhauma told him about the Vedanta Sutra. And after 7 days he said, "Any questions?" He said, "You haven't said anything for 7 days. Usually my students express some appreciation, give a reflection, and ask a question. Do you not understand the meaning of the Vedanta Sutra?" And Mahaprabhu said, "No, I understand it completely. It's just your explanations that are clouding the meanings." And Sarvabhauma was shocked because he thought he had a teacher-student relationship. He said, "Well, what's your idea of the Vedanta Sutra?" And when he heard what Caitanya Mahaprabhu had to say out of his beautiful lotus mouth, his heart started to change. And then they had a discussion about one section of the Srimad Bhagavatam called the Atmarama verse. And in that discussion, Mahaprabhu invited Sarvabhauma, "No, first you speak." He was very humble. And Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, his very powerful scholarship, then gave several meanings to the Atmarama verse and said, "What do you have to say?" And Mahaprabhu gave dozens of eloquent meanings, never touching on the meanings that Sarvabhauma had already given. And it was at that point that Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya thought within himself, "Oh my God, this is God." And Caitanya Mahaprabhu confirmed it by revealing his transcendental form as Narayan and also as Sadbhuj. So he received mercy and he was transformed. But is everybody in the world who considers Caitanya Mahaprabhu open-mindedly, who comes close, can receive his mercy. And the campaign of Caitanya Mahaprabhu, N-H-E Ashodi Maya, Nashi Pararagi, which is Harinam Sankirtan, to distribute the transcendental holy name of the Lord. So, our Shastras tell us about how the Lord gives access through His holy name. But before we go into that, we'll try singing a few lines of Jeev Jagat because I've been talking for a long time. Okay, now tell me what you learned so far, or any reflection so far from what we've sung or talked about. Not what we've talked about, what I've talked about. Yes.
I've been running around doing my service.
He's been running around doing his service. For those who are online, can't hear you.
You really think people can't hear me because I'm not talking loud enough?
No, it's on for the broadcast. They can't hear
What
me.
I'm saying is not loud enough for you?
It's loud enough for me.
I think...
Okay, go ahead.
I don't want to force you to repeat everything I'm saying.
It's all right.
I'm blown away by what an empowered devotee you are. I'm stunned. Every time I hear you speak, I feel like I've never heard a class before. I should never speak. You are such a pure, exalted Vaishnava. You have so much love for Srila Prabhupada and Caitanya Mahaprabhu. I'm just wonderstruck. And I didn't even get to hear much because I'm unqualified. It was just little bits and pieces because if you spoke too much, I might get shocked out of my material existence and die or something like that. But just the little bits I heard just like blew me away. And specifically, because you always ask for specific feedback, you made a point that Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya was a great scholar, but somehow or other his scholarship wasn't able to pierce through the material world and give him access to Mahaprabhu without the mercy of Gopinathacharya and others. I thought that was beautiful. I was going to share with you afterwards. Radhanath Maharaj told me, this is like maybe 30 years ago, he told me that when Mahaprabhu liberated Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, he liberated all the logicians. And when he liberated Keshav Kashmiri, he liberated all the pundits. And when he liberated Jagai and Madhai, he liberated all of the sinful people. And in this way, Mahaprabhu interacted with the epitome of each of those disqualifications and then gave them access. Mm-hmm. And I thought that Radhanath Maharaj was brilliant when he broke that out on it. And then I found a book by Kanupriya Goswami, he's a Nityananda Vangsha Acharya. The devotee said 5,000 people would know Mahaprabhu was God, but there's actually tens of millions of Gaudiyas, not even in ISKCON, all strewn all over Bengal. So there's many Gaudiyas. But he's a big, Jati Goshai, from that Nityananda Vangsha. He wrote a book called Prem Yuga. And he made exactly the same point in this book that I found decades later. I brought to Radha Maharaj. I go, did you know this was in this book? He goes, no, I've never seen that book. I just had that thought spontaneously. Which blew me away because Kanupriya Goswami was one of the foremost scholars of Vaishnavism in the last few generations. When Sundarananda Vidya-Vinod left the Gaudiya Mutt, he went to Kanupriya Goswami and studied with him for the rest of his life. It's a big, big punch. And so I was going to share that with you. And then you made this point that just, I never understood it. You said that, I never liked the argument that Gopinath Acharya made that you don't know Mahaprabhu's God because you haven't received his mercy. I don't like the argument because it opens the door for any cult to say you don't know our Guru's God because you haven't received their mercy. It's an unfalsifiable claim. It's kind of like my mission in life is to escape unfalsifiable claims because I think we do better in an environment where you have to give evidence for what you believe, and it separates us from the pack. And I never liked this argument in that section of the CC. And I don't even know if it was surgical on your part or if you're just that great of a Vaishnava that these things are like a Vedami Buddhi Yogam Tvam situation for you, where the absolute truth just comes to you naturally without you even trying. But you made a double-ended point right from the CC that number one, Mahaprabhu schooled Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya on the meaning of Vedanta Sutra and blew his mind. And then he schooled him again on the Atmarama verse. And so we make these claims that you can only know if you get mercy, which sounds like an unfalsifiable claim. But when it's made by someone who also demonstrates an incredible, earth-shattering, wonder-striking command of the Shastra, then that claim holds water. It's not an empty claim. You actually can't make any other claim because if you're trying to understand a singularity, an omnipotent genesis of all existence, there would be logically no other way than by the mercy of that entity. So it's although it may be in some ways unfalsifiable, or it may be something we can't then subject to easy scrutiny, it actually makes sense. And when you couple that with Mahaprabhu's book-ended chastisement of Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, demonstrating a command of everything, all knowledge, like Mahaprabhu, like he did with Keshav Kashmiri. It's actually a very powerful argument. Because what you're saying is, I know more than you do, I'm more of a pundit than you are, what you think demonstrates your standing actually doesn't. I demonstrate my standing more from that. And then when I make the argument that you need the Lord's mercy, then you have to take it seriously. Because it's coming from someone who's more expert at what you're expert at. Like someone who wants to teach you how to dress and then shows you that they know, or wants to teach you kirtan and then shows you they know. And so when Mahaprabhu was dealing with his personalities, he demonstrated that he was the personification of logic, the personification of learning. And then when that argument came, the argument holds water. So somehow or other, I've been meandering around and living on the periphery of Vaishnavism for 37 years now, and I've never understood this. And I just happened to be like walking by your class because I couldn't find something else to do, and so I had to sit in your class for at least a few minutes to just not look like a complete charlatan. And this, which has somehow escaped me for my whole life, my entire adult life, and a little bit extra, and I got this from your class.
And your conundrum as to how I was able to speak that. There's an old adage that a broken clock is right at least twice a day. So somehow in my meanderings, there was something.
I'll say this also, that Srila Prabhupada makes precisely that argument, I think, to Professor Stahl in San Francisco in the late 60s, early 70s, and I never liked it. Because I'm such an operati. Obviously I've repeated it, and I read it, and I've accepted it, but it never like stole my heart.
Yeah, I have a couple of extended thoughts about this, and it's a heart-touching, actually, topic, because we're talking about a personal relationship with Krishna. With Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, by showing superior scholarship, he changed his heart. And with others, he knew exactly how to deal with them so that they would open their hearts and surrender to him. And an example of that comes in the story of Sudama Brahmana. Because, very interestingly, as mentioned in the Srimad Bhagavatam, he was very specifically attached to being renounced. And when he met Krishna, Krishna had given him abundance. And because of that, he had to adjust. But that's not why his heart changed completely. It was because he perceived that his, what Prabhupada calls paltry offering that he brought, the little chipped rice, which he was reluctant to give to Krishna anyway, and which his wife had gathered together for him from the neighbors. Krishna felt so indebted to Sudama Brahmana for that he gave him more wealth than Indra Brahma. Everything he had, as it's mentioned there, it's like, I'll give you everything possible in the world, but Krishna felt that it was insufficient. And Sudama perceived that Krishna had given him every possible thing there is to have in this world, and he still felt it wasn't enough to reciprocate with what you reluctantly gave me, which I actually took from you. When he perceived that was the nature of Krishna and how much he wanted to reciprocate, and then his heart changed in such a way that it's mentioned there that Krishna's mercy in that form had nudged him towards perfection, part of which was his last attachment to being a renunciate. And in the Bhagavatam, the verse Tenu kampam susamikshamano bunchana evatma kritam vipakam redvagva purvir vadadam namaste jiveta yomukti pade sadaya bhak, spoken by Lord Brahma after he had seen the unlimited mercy of Krishna and his opulence. He said that this is the state of a devotee, which is to see everything as Krishna's mercy, to understand that whatever is happening is an arrangement by Krishna to purify the devotee's heart. And therefore he remains in an expectant state, seeing everything as arranged by Krishna. And in the commentary, Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says, although after a devotee surrenders to Krishna, it may appear that he's still receiving karmic reactions, just like everybody else in the world. He said, no, that's not the same thing for devotees. It's Krishna's special arrangement for each individual devotee because even after one surrenders, there may be residual desires or attachments to the material world. And Krishna knows exactly what they are, and therefore he gives them customized reactions, specifically targeting those last vestiges of attachment to the material world. And when a devotee recognizes that this is Krishna's intention, that he's loosening those even very faint but still perceivable attachments to the material world, it feels greatly indebted to Krishna, as Prabhupada expressed his own sojourn in devotional service as including Krishna's merciful way of taking away any last possibilities for using his own plan, and therefore he reverted entirely and exclusively to his spiritual master's plan. And in the story of Sudama, there's a beautiful poetical metaphor in which one of our acharyas says that those who farm the land, they offer some sacrifice to the clouds out of appreciation. He said, but the clouds feel so insufficient to reciprocate that offering that comes from the farmers, that they rain only at night. Because they think, what is this we're giving? It's not enough. And therefore they're embarrassed to bring it forward. And Krishna feels like that, says our acharyas. He's so appreciative of anybody offering anything to him or any gesture towards him. Neha Bikram Manashosti said in code in the Bhagavad Gita, Pratyavayam Vidite Swalpamapyasitamasa. And we find also this extremely ambrosia-like combination of Caitanya Mahāprabhu, who comes demonstratively to the world to open all the channels for everybody. And there's a verse I'll just give you really quick. It's in my black bag, which is hopefully somewhere still on the planet. And in that black bag, there's a little file section in the back. Just open the file section and quickly. And in the back of the file section, there's some pages that Rupanuga Prabhu printed out for me this morning. And I'll just mention this verse really quick, and here, you can have a look at it. If I can have one too. And then share with your neighbor, because the ink ran out on the printer. So there's 35 copies. And I don't mind taking one, and then please spread them around. And here's the verse. This verse is about the theme of this talk today, which is the one word I'm trying to embellish so that it becomes a prominent theme of why we're here today. For Mahagaur Purnima, why celebrate the appearance day of Sri Caitanya Mahāprabhu? What's the one word? And on your way home, what are you going to do? You get a tattoo. Like right here. Okay. Let's sing the verse together, and I'll just talk about it very briefly. Ready? Share with your neighbor. Sharing means caring, according to the Salvation Army. Here we go. Give me the... It's the morning tune. Pātrāpātra-vicāra nāhi sthānāsthāna. Pātrāpātra-vicāra. Jai jar pai tar har kai kare prema-dāna. Jai jar pai tar pātrāpātra-vicāra nāhi. Sorry, I'll do it better. Pātrāpātra-vicāra nāhi sthānāsthāna. Pātrāpātra-vicāra nāhi sthānāsthāna. Jai Jahatai Kare prema-dāna. Jai and distributing love of Godhead. Caitanya Mahāprabhu and his associates did not consider who was a fit candidate and who was not, nor where such distribution should or should not take place. They made no conditions. Wherever they go, wherever they got the opportunity, the members of the Panchatapa distributed love of God. So this distribution of Krishna consciousness comes like a flood. When God himself appears in the world, the intention of giving it to everybody, regardless of their condition, whether they ask for it or not. Mayamragam dayate ipsitaman vidavad, says Karvajana Muni, that in the age of Kali Yuga, God comes and he chases after the living entities, insisting that they take Krishna consciousness. So our acharyas talk about the way some people seem to have more access to Krishna consciousness. And they quote, Yesham tvanta katam papam jananam punya karmanam tedvan ba mohaniya mukta vajanti mam jidavata. Generally those who have done some pious activity, they trend towards the mode of goodness. But our acharyas say, it's not from that they can understand or appreciate God so much. But it's more that people who are pious, they tend to be in places like holy places where they might meet a devotee of the Lord who has love for Krishna in his or her heart, and that's where they'll become inspired to take up the process of devotional service. Of course, in the mode of goodness, they also become a little more open-minded towards the idea of an absolute truth. But when Lord Caitanya Mahāprabhu comes to the world, pātrāpātra-vicāra nāhi. He doesn't care who the recipient is, whether they're in their mode of goodness or their mode of ignorance. And we find that people everywhere are astounded by the mercy of Caitanya Mahāprabhu, and it comes upon them. In fact, several years ago, when I was here in Laguna Beach, this jewel by the ocean, this is a temple that is a jewel by the ocean. We went out on book distribution, been out several times together, and on one foray we went to an area where there were tire shops, pizza parlors, hair salons, and nail salons, because they're ubiquitous in the world. And we also found a bar. And are we allowed to walk into a bar as Vaiṣṇavas? Don't answer, I'm going to answer for you. Pātrāpātra-vicāra nāhi nāhi sthānāsthāna. Everybody. Pātrāpātra-vicāra nāhi nāhi sthānāsthāna. Jai Jahar Pai Hari prema-dāna. Seven of us approached the bar right here in SoCal, Orange County, on a fine sunny morning, wearing dhōtīs and tilaka and sārīs, and we walked up to the bar, and there was a man taking a breather, leaning against the door on the outside. I looked at him, he looked at me. No words were exchanged. He pulled out $20 and gave it to me. We went in the bar and went table to table. And we could perceive that there was a sense of relief from the people there, from their absolute boredom, doing the same old thing, and not being able to come out of the rut, that we were there intervening in their lives. When we left that place, I turned to the devotees and I said, why did that guy hand me $20? With no questions asked, no words spoken. And one devotee with a very knowing look on his face said, he felt embarrassed. And this is the embarrassment of the soul here in the material world, hanging around, loitering. The whole material world is a Costco parking lot. Or even worse, 7-Eleven. And there's a sign on every one of them that says, don't hang around, buddy. We're here to make money. And that's the material world. And when people get tired of that, and they want something heartfelt, something real, a relationship that's eternal and perceivably loving, not tit for tat, they surrender to Lord Caitanya, and He's there, ready to reach out to us. And anyone who comes in contact with that mood of the devotees, who are pātrāpātra-vicāra nāhi, they don't care who you are. They just know you're a spirit soul inside. And they want to give you the same access to the spiritual world as they got. And when they realize that's what we're doing, they want to join. Just in front of the Bhaktivedanta ashram at Govardhan Hill, where we sometimes are privileged to stay for some time, we set up a book table. And one day when I went out and taking a break, was trying to distribute a few books from the book table, I offered a book to a rickshaw driver. And he understood what we were doing, and he purchased the book. And then I, a few minutes later, approached another rickshaw driver, and he started giving arguments in Hindi. But the first rickshawwala jumped off his rickshaw and said, "What are you, some cheap person? You don't know what they're doing? Look at these books, what they're distributing. You give." And with so much force, he made his fellow rickshawwala give a donation. And then he joined the group. Because the next person came along, there was two of them saying, "Just give them." When people realize whatever profession they think they're in, a rickshawwala, even the beggars. When a devotee in Jagannath Puri approached a beggar and preemptively offered a book, that person disgorged from their gamsha several rupees and then felt as if their life had new meaning. So Caitanya Mahāprabhu gives new meaning to every soul's life who is sick and tired of hanging around the same old bar of this material world, saying the same old worn out stories. And so Caitanya Mahāprabhu came to give access to everybody in the world. We can take it ourselves by the holy name. Holy name is Krishna himself, but more merciful than Krishna himself. And he comes to absolve everyone of their involvement in the material world. 2 more verses, and then we'll sing and finish. In Srimad Bhagavatam, 6th canto, Shukadeva Goswami tells the story of Ajamil. And he quotes a verse giving everyone in the world access to the spiritual world. And I have that verse in my mind right now. Can anybody do a Vulcan mind meld and understand what verse I have in my mind? Yes? He could do it. Only Mukaravinda. Sanketam parihasam vastovam helanamevama Vaikuntha nama grahanam Asheshaga haram harim. Just listen to the meaning briefly. It says that if you set up a motorcycle shop and you put on your sign, Krishna Motorcycle Shop, if you walk past the Hare Krishna and you say, "Hare Krishna, where's your hair?" If you come up with a song and just to be hip, you throw in the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra just to throw everybody off. If somebody approaches you with a book and you're unacquainted, and you say, get out of here, Hare Krishna. You guys should go take a long walk off a short pier. Because it's Vaikuntha Nama Grahanam. You said the Vaikuntha name. It came from Vaikuntha and it touched your lips. Asheshaga. Aga means Aga. There's also Aga Oga. Don't ever give anybody the name Aga Oga Das. It says Ashesha means unlimited. Aga means reactions to bad stuff that accumulate in the heart. Harim, they're all destroyed. Harim Vidu means the smart people know this. The insiders know this. This is the secret. Those who follow Caitanya Mahāprabhu know that anyone can get access to the spiritual world by the power of the holy name. There it is. Pātrāpātra-vicāra. Here, we'll start over. Pātrāpātra-vicāra, nāhi, sthānāsthāna. Everyone. Jai Bharatai Kare prema-dāna. Hare Krishna. Very much. I'd like to thank Tukaram Prabhu and company for inviting us to come here for the Mahagaur Purnima. That way every year we get 2 Gaur Purnimas. And it's a heartfelt experience coming here and just having the opportunity to be together and talk about Lord Caitanya. Thank you. Vaiśṇavebhyo namo namaha nanda kori Vaiṣṇavini ki jai. Gaur Premanande Haribol.